Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm going to be talking about a film that came out in the 70s that wasn't really a follow up of any kind to Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee, but it starred one of the film's co stars. And this was kind of one of his first big films before he kind of went off on his own and did, more films where he starred in the lead role and things like that. And that's the film Black Belt Jones. So that's the film right here I'm reviewing for you today. It even says on the original poster of the movie, it says Enter Jim Dragon Kelly. So that was kind of a little nudge to the fact that he was in Enter the Dragon along with Bruce Lee and John Saxon and everybody else. But yeah, I am reviewing Black Belt Jones for you today. In this film, you guys, though, Jim Kelly plays this like detective slash guy that you hire to kind of do really dangerous stuff. It's never really clear if he works for like the government or anything like that, but um, he's basically the guy that does all the dirty work so that the government and these higher agencies don't have to do the work themselves. But there's a kind of a personal mission he goes on when a friend of his has this martial art dojo that is constantly being threatened by this mafia group. They're constantly coming back, making threats, claiming they have these contracts to take the dojo from this guy. And so basically, they hire this character Black Belt Jones, played by Jim Kelly, in this right away to take care of the mafia right away. But they still keep coming back. They still keep bringing more gang members and stuff that can, really ruin their chance of maintaining the dojo and keeping it theirs and things like that. Um, so it eventually gets to the point where Black Belt Jones and this basically this lady figure of who is like a female Black Belt Jones in a way, they team up. This woman kind of has this connection with the guy that runs the place, and so her and Black Belt Jones team up and try to get rid of this mafia gang once and for all because they keep coming back. They clearly want this dojo, and they're clearly willing to make more trouble just to get their hands on it and things like that. So that's basically the main premise of Black Belt Jones. But overall, guys, I liked this film. I thought it was a lot of fun. Definitely not in the league of Enter the Dragon by any means. Though I really liked Jim Kelly in this movie, and I really liked him in Enter the Dragon also. This is a very fun movie. It's definitely a very fun 70s throwback. Definitely a representation of how martial art films were filmed back in the day. Definitely a lot of good action in it and things like that, and definitely a lot of humor. There's even some scenes where about even back when this was released, some people would probably kind of chuckle at some of the things that are mentioned and things like that in it. But I really like this film a lot. I think it's a lot of fun. It has a ton of fun martial arts in it. So let's kind of go over my positives and negatives and things I really liked about Black Belt Jones. So, like I said, one of my first big things to praise this movie of is it is a very fun movie. I never really felt bored in it. There's something I'll mention in my negatives later that I think could have benefited this movie, but overall, it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's definitely a fun, go and get this guy that's really good at martial arts and good at defending his title and good at defending, people who are representing something. They definitely had that kind of a approach to it. Jim Kelly definitely was a very, threatening appearance if you were ever caught in a fight with him back in the day and things like that. So definitely a guy where if you got in a fight with him, you were probably going to lose and things like that. So just a very fun movie that I had a fun time watching. This also has a lot of good martial arts scenes in it, whether it was the choreography, whether it was Jim Kelly just really having a good knowledge of what to do in these martial arts scenes. There really is a lot of good choreographed fight scenes in this movie, so it's definitely one of those things where even though it is choreographed at heart, it really kind of feels like natural and organic when they're fighting each other. It really does look like they're getting their head ran into a car window or running into the ground or being thrown across the room in certain scenes, like what Black Belt Jones does. There really is a lot of good martial arts scenes in this movie. And like I mentioned earlier, I really do like Jim Kelly's performance here. He definitely had a very likable presence on screen, whether he was trying to be the tough guy, whether he was trying to be the sincere guy that was sorry for this guy kind of in trouble with this dojo, whether he was this guy that was the love interest of this person that was helping him in this mission and things like that. I really thought it was a very fun Jim Kelly performance. They definitely worked off of the things he did well in Enter the Dragon. Just a likable performance, kind of funny at times, but for the most part, trying to play it serious. So just a very fun performance from Jim Kelly in this movie. I also really like the music in this film. It's definitely one of those films where even after I'm done watching it, there's certain cues and musical numbers from the film that are still stuck in my mind and things that I can remember after seeing the movie and things like that. So I really like the musical score in this movie. For my negatives, though, this is something that Enter the Dragon kind of faced back in the day too, in the '70s. That Black Belt Jones unfortunately did face as well, and that's some really bad dubbing and ADR voiceover. There's just a lot of scenes where a character says something that clearly wasn't said by that person on that day at the set and things like that. And I don't know if, because I know with Enter the Dragon, they had to basically completely erase the sound on certain scenes and then do voiceover later on in like post production and certain characters in the film didn't have the greatest English, so they had to really make sure they could hire somebody to pronounce some of the words for him better and things like that during post production. And I don't know if Black Belt Jones faced that. It really did feel like a lot of the stuff that was spoken by certain characters were spoken by that person at one point or the other, whether it was the day on the set or in post production. But for some reason, just like Enter the Dragon, there's a lot of scenes too where a character says something and you kind of don't believe that it's them for certain points. Just kind of felt like something that was dubbed over, whether the line was bad at first, or it was bad on the set, or it was better in post production. Whatever the case was, some of the dubbing in this is pretty bad for the most part. So if you're looking for a film where every single line is spoken on the day on the set, unfortunately, Black Belt Jones is not that movie. Another negative I had with the movie was sometimes it gets really distracted from the plot. Though it's kind of cool if you want to, develop Black Belt Jones and this woman having this relationship while this mission's going on. There's just a lot of scenes where I felt like they dedicate almost too much time to that, and as a result, the film kind of gets halted as far as plot is concerned. And then it's not until like a couple of scenes later where somebody from that Mafia team shows up again where the plot kind of gets moving again. So there's a lot of scenes like that where the plot kind of gets distracted with itself, and overall, it's not a very congealed plot as a result. Another thing that Enter the Dragon got away with that I don't think Black Belt Jones got away with as much. Like clearly they were taking inspiration from Enter the Dragon while approaching it this way, but Enter the Dragon had more reason to this than Black Belt Jones did, is the fact that almost every character in this film has almost no weapons at all. There's a couple of scenes where, yeah, maybe somebody gets a hold of a handgun or nunchucks or something like that, but for the most part, almost every character in this film, including the police force and including these government agents, have almost no weapons at all in this movie. And it's just one of those things where it worked in Enter the Dragon because on the island there weren't any weapons allowed. So as a result, whenever Bruce Lee is fighting on the island, or whenever Jim Kelly's fighting on the island, or whenever John Saxon is fighting on the island, they have to use martial arts because there is no weapons allowed on the island. So that's why in that movie they could not resort to guns or things like that, because every weapon that you see in that movie was either something already on the island or something that somebody turned into a weapon at some point in that movie. But for the most part, everybody just kind of went onto the islands as themselves in that movie. So as a result, they had to use martial arts whenever they got into a fight in that movie. So even though that works in that movie, unfortunately in Black Belt Jones, because I believe most of this takes place in America as far as I'm concerned, like almost nobody has weapons in this movie. Yeah, there's a scene where like maybe Black Belt Jones gets a hold of like this bow staff, bends it in half, and uses it in the fight and things like that. But for the most part, almost nobody has a gun, almost nobody has a nunchuck, and almost nobody has a bow staff in this movie. It's all complete martial arts, which I guess is fine if that's the movie you want to make. But at the same time, there has to be justification as to why certain characters don't have like a gun or don't have anything like that. Because it did work in Enter the Dragon, but unfortunately in Black Belt Jones, there's no real explanation for it. So as a result, it just kind of feels like something where we want to repeat the success of Enter the Dragon, but we don't know how to do it, and we don't know how to justify rules for it. But overall, I'm going to give Black Belt Jones an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's a very fun movie. It did come with the sequel Hot Potato, which I may or may not review at some point soon for you guys. I think it came out about a year after this movie did. And I think, interestingly enough, I think Black Belt Jones had the same director as Enter the Dragon, so you can definitely see kind of the comparisons and kind of how the plot's very similar and things like that. But like I said, 8.5 out of 10 for me. It's a very fun film. If you liked Enter the Dragon and you liked Jim Kelly's performance in that movie, you'll definitely kind of like this follow-up film he worked on there. Is very much in the same vein as that movie in certain scenes, so 8.5 out of 10 for me. I really like Black Belt Jones. If you guys like martial art films, it's really not a bad film to check out at all.